Hi, and welcome to A Class of Their Own podcast, revealing the human stories behind their name. We will hear honest and intimate reflections from our guests who, despite their circumstances, shape a world that reflects their unique visions of success. Join me, Mira Magecha, to learn from these inspirational people and take the first step to make your own change. On today's episode, we are joined by Ziggy. He is our most loyal listener. He's been with us from the very start, and together we'd like to say a huge thank you for joining us on this journey. Today's episode is full of some of our guests sharing their lessons and challenges that they've overcome in 2024. Before we get started, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's listened, commented, shared, provided guidance, provided feedback. It's been an awesome journey, and a huge thank you, and a Merry Christmas. What's the challenge that's happened in 2024 that's helped you create space or create the right environment for you to thrive?
I'm really happy where I live. I spend a lot of time at the spa, but I have done for many years. I'm not sure what's changed in 2024. It must be the detox. It
must be me coming into your life.
It must be you. Oh, hello, obviously.
So doing the detox.
Yeah, but like I said, I've only done maybe 2 weeks max in my entire life. Because I've been very wary of this, like alcoholic, family. To be honest, my dad's an alcoholic, my brother's an alcoholic, functioning, where they drink every day and have cans every day and whatever. I've been very conscious of that because there has been times I've been like, oh, I'm drinking a lot. And half the time I didn't actually want to drink. Like, I'm certainly not an alcoholic. I would rather stay in bed, sometimes a bit hungover rather than go to a gig. But the lifestyle of DJing, when you've had so many gigs in a row, when you've been drinking, it's like, all right, have a beer, 1 pint of beer and I'm back in. So I've been doing sober gigs. And so I know we're going a little bit off track here. Sorry, not sorry. But I've been doing sober gigs, and that has what's changed my life.
Doing sober gigs.
Sober gigs. Because if I go and do one gig and I drink, I'm hungover. Then I've got other gigs. I have to have a few drinks there to feel like healthy and normal. Because after a couple of drinks, I'm like, oh, I feel fine. I'm not hungover.
Yeah.
So that has been the thing for me. Sobriety. Like, I'm going off to France. I'm going off on gigs, traveling, flying, and playing sober. And the 0% alcohol's really helped. Like beers, it gives me the placebo.
Challenges have been, work-wise, is shedding my attachment to who I was in Amit and Naroop as a business, right? So we were a creative duo, worked together for 22 years, and everybody knew me as one half of Amit and Naroop, photographer, filmmaker. That was who I was. And I was proud of that. I loved that life. It's so much fun being on set. Like, just the whole process from coming up with an idea, pre-production, shooting, post-production, having something in your mind here and then seeing it on TV or in billboards is so satisfying. So having to walk away from that, detach from that, and say, I'm now the co-founder of a business, of a different type of business. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to get all the credit, dude. It's not going to be just, oh, Amit and Naroop have done this. Oh, well done, Naroop. Look at that. The lighting was amazing on that. We're growing a company and a team, and everyone needs to get the credit. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think everyone deserves credit. And that's when the best work is done, when you don't care who gets the credit. So it's not about me giving up control. It's just shedding my past and saying, I'm at peace with you. We did great work. We built something great, but now we're leveling up to something bigger. And there's been a real awakening of me by doing that, where now my mindset has changed from being just a creative to being I guess you could call it entrepreneur or businessman or co-founder, where I'm thinking about stuff on a bigger scale. Everything I see is about scale and opportunity and growth.
Yeah.
So that's been a challenge, I think, was moving across from that. But I feel like I'm comfortable and happy with how I handled that. It took a while, but that feels good. That was the biggest challenge so far.
What have been your biggest lessons from 24? And I imagine there's quite a few based on the conversation we've just had.
My biggest lesson would be, so in 2023, I set myself a goal for 2024. And I would say this is a really good top tip, actually. Outside of what you want to achieve, think about what you want the year to be like. So in 2023, I said in 2024, I want to go to one in-person event a month for 2024. Because I had a baby, I was pregnant in 22, had a really small baby 23. So I wasn't as out and about as much. So 2024, I wanted to do something once a month. And I did that. I stuck to it and I made that a commitment, and I would speak to my husband about it. We'd sort out childcare, and I made that a thing, and it's really paid off. I've got some really great connections, really great friendships. I've joined some really amazing communities. I've had amazing opportunities from it, speaking engagements. I've met amazing people. So my first thing that I've learned about 2024, which I'll definitely take into 2025, is what's your overarching commitment to yourself for the year? It could be you want more speaking engagements. It could be you want to run a marathon. It could be you want to become a vegetarian or eat less meat, or have less toxins in your home and become more toxic free. Whatever the thing is, if you really think about that as your overarching like golden star, you are able to make more decisions with that in mind. So when 2024 happened, and there were events, I was a lot more open to go to them because that was my commitment.
Yeah.
So I knew, I haven't been to one, I should do it. So my lesson would be, set yourself the overarching idea of the experience you want for the year, and then allow that to guide your decisions and your priorities for that year. So
Love
that would be my biggest lesson from 24.
Love that. This episode is brought to you by Play for Change. Play for Change brings together leadership coaching, expert facilitation, and builds communities. They help craft real connections, spark learning, and turn play into powerful experiments to enable better relationships with yourself and others around you. To find out more, go to playforchange.co.uk. Links are in the show notes below.
So one of the challenges has been, at one stage, is the growth side, while also not making sure that things aren't falling apart in the meantime. And that's been a really difficult balance this year, because we're trying to do so much while also being a very small and lean team.
Yep.
And the challenge is, I really love the exciting new things, but by focusing on the exciting new things, then I need to make sure other things don't fall, and it's constant whack-a-mole in some ways. So next year for us, a big challenge is a big growth stage, and we hiring more people to help with that. And
Hiring the right people.
hiring the right people is always a tough thing. But I think this year the challenge has been trying to juggle that of how do it's trying not to be too many things to too many different people. And I think over the year we've got a lot clearer about who we're serving, how we're doing that. Whereas at the beginning, it's just so much chaos. And I think 2024 has been so much chaos, but it's been less chaos in 2023. So it's moving in the right direction. But I think a huge part of that is just getting really clear about things. Getting that clarity is so important. Whereas I think at the early stages, there's so many people who just move with everything, which is important for experimentation. But you've got to know when to stop experimenting and when to double down. This is working. Keep doing this.
And I was literally just about to say, with your personality of you like experimenting with a bit of this and let's try this and let's see where this goes, that's got to also be quite difficult, because once you've established something, my assumption is you're already on to the next thing, because you're like, oh, we could do this and this could work and let's experiment. So putting that boundary on that has got to be interesting as well as challenging.
Yeah. And it's understanding my weaknesses is that I don't necessarily want to be an operator. I want to be more the strategy. I want to be the launching. I want to be doing the new things. But having somebody else who really enjoys the structure to run some of the things that I've already started.
Yeah.
And it's the whole element of, it's one element is what I enjoy doing, but it's also, if I'm doing something I don't enjoy, then that's a worse product or worse experience for the people we're trying to serve. And that's a failure on my part.
Yeah.
And that's a constant battle this year, is we just don't have the resources to deliver things to the standard I want.
I imagine you quite like control as well.
I'm trying to get, now I do. So for example, if I'm in podcast, I don't watch it back myself now, because 90% of the podcast, well, 90% of the audience, 99% of the audience won't notice the thing that I'll notice. But if I don't let go of that, then I will never be free.
Yeah.
Whereas now I've got to trust the team.
Yeah.
The team are going to do it to a standard that maybe might not be exactly what I want it to be, but it's that trust element. I've got to trust them. And it's been a difficult transition, like you said, because I am that person who, especially when I started as a solopreneur, a lot of things I do is that high agency. I make a decision and move fast. Whereas when you've got a team, you've got to be much more understanding. It's been a real learning experience for me, I think, that team element, because at my old job, a lot of the time by the end, I was the solo person on the project. So I was the project manager and also doing the work, and then sometimes managing offshore people. But there's very clear boundaries. Whereas now, because there's no boundaries, I just do whatever.
Yeah.
It's having to put that structure into place has been a really, learning experience, I'd say, is the best way to describe it, because I didn't know what I was doing. And to be honest, most entrepreneurs don't know what they're doing. You're learning on the fly.
You're making it up as you go along. And that's what's exciting about it, but also what's nerve-wracking and where all the lessons and failures come from.
It's the whole annoying two-sided coin, right? It's really exciting, but also really stressful. And you want to keep the exciting bit without all the stress, but it doesn't work like that.
If only. What's been your proudest moment of this year so far?
Well, I was pretty proud of my solo show that I did at the beginning of the year. As I said, creating a whole new body of work, which I'd never done before for a show. Exploring the theme of the color red, which it was the biggest sort of commitment to one exhibition or thing. And as I said, I probably hadn't given myself a huge amount of time to do it, and I feel really proud of like getting that done, and I was really happy with it, and it got great like press, and so I was really proud of that.
Well done. And what's been the most challenging part of this year so far?
The economic crisis.
For you. And people not buying artwork.
Nobody's buying artwork. No, they are buying a bit of artwork.
Just got it up for.
No, I've had lots of nice opportunities this year, starting working more with my gallery in Ibiza. That was amazing. And working with different people to do new projects, new print editions. So I've had a good year, even though obviously the art financials is kind of it's struggling a bit now, but it's been a good year despite that particular challenge.
This year, as we get to the end of this year, I think I've had to overcome or become more aware. I won't say I've overcome it, but I've become more aware of my sometimes black and white thinking. I think it's as partly as I get to understand how my brain works more. My tendency to be too definite about certain things, and my non-accommodation sometimes of other people, and I'm thinking particularly in the family.
Yeah.
And so I think I've had to kind of just become a bit more humble and realize, and it's good because I don't know if it's age or if it's my brain or whatever it is, but I'm not as sharp as I used to be. And you could see that as a bad thing, but I'm seeing it as a gift, because it means I was so definite before about when I was right and that I knew stuff and everything else. Now I'm kind of well, sometimes I'm seeing that I make mistakes more than I used to see that I made mistakes. But so that's a good thing, because then I can be a bit less definite and a bit more humble.
Yeah.
And a bit more, accepting of other people and different ways of seeing it.
And is it that you were making fewer mistakes before, or is it actually you're just more open to admitting that there were mistakes now?
That's a really good question. And I can only answer it from where I think I was. Well, this is part of the amazing thing that we're talking about is it's perception.
Yeah.
So I would have been so sure before I was making less mistakes, but was I really?
Yeah.
I don't know, because it would have been a blind spot to me. So, and in understanding that, then you have to become a bit more humble, because I used to think that in any given situation, that I could understand and know everything about the situation, even from all of the other people as well.
Yeah.
And I was really confident in that. And now I know that probably wasn't true. So it's still very much a thing that I'm going through, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's good. It makes me realize, you're more open to the different perspectives, and maybe even speak a bit less and listen a bit more.
If you enjoyed that conversation, please share A Class of Their Own podcast with your friends and family. Subscribe, follow and like. It really helps us continue to grow. Keep being you through connection, learning and play. You are a class of your own.